It is I. I'm back. Me and a few of the guys have been reading through the book of First Kings, more specifically King Solomon. Now, Solomon is around 17 years old, 17 or 20 years old, roughly, when he inherits the kingdom of Israel. And at this time in history, the kingdom of Israel is the biggest and strongest kingdom on the entire planet, on the face of the earth. He didn't just inherit some play place at McDonald's or something. No, he inherited the biggest superpower on the planet at the age of 17. Solomon was going through puberty. He was probably trying to figure out himself, and now he had to figure out how to rule the biggest kingdom on the planet, full of thousands and thousands of people. Needless to say, Solomon was kind of stressed about this task that he had to take on. He probably felt a lot of uncertainty. He probably felt that he was thrown into the deep end and was just expected to swim. Do you ever feel like that? Do you ever feel uncertain of how to navigate your current situation? And I don't know what that looks like. Maybe it's finals week is coming up and you're super stressed and you don't know what you're going to do. Maybe you're graduating and you don't know what's next after graduation, what you're supposed to be doing or where you're supposed to be at after you graduate. Maybe you feel uncertain about your financial situation, or maybe you're getting married. I don't know. Not me, but some of you guys. And you don't know where God's going to take you and your spouse after you guys get married. Or maybe even you just feel lost and you don't know what path you should go down. You don't know which door you should open, which window to climb through. I don't know. Whatever it is, do you feel thrown into the deep end and you're not sure if you're going to be able to swim? Well, before Solomon did anything, he asked God for wisdom. He asked God for guidance and he asked God for help. And in chapter 4 of 1 Kings, which is a chapter mainly about what Solomon required as a king from his nation and also him putting his government officials and cabinet in place, there's a very sneaky and yet profound truth about God that's easy to miss. 1 Kings chapter 4 verses 20 through 21 says this: "The people of Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand on the seashore. They ate, they drank, and they were happy. And Solomon ruled over all the kingdom from the Euphrates River to the land of the Philistines, as far as the border of Egypt. These countries were brought tribute and were Solomon's subjects all his life." These verses kind of obviously talk about how vast Solomon's rule was. I mean, his kingdom is massive. If you look at a map, I mean, I don't know how else I can say this. If you look at a map, it's big. His rule was big, okay? Do you understand that? How do you say it? How I was going to say it? Look, those verses mainly talks about how massive Solomon's rule was and how many people he ruled over. But notice the phrase used to describe the amount of people. The Bible says they were as numerous as the sand on the seashore. That's a lot of people. And as somewhat of an introvert myself, if there was that many people in my city, I just wouldn't go outside. I'm not even going to hold you. I just wouldn't go outside. The seashore can keep its sand for all I care. Heck, reading through the rest of that passage, the usage of that description might slip your mind. It may not stick out to you. But if you jump with me 9 verses later to verse 29, we read this. Got to turn the page. God gave Solomon wisdom and very great insight. And breadth... Let me actually look up how to say that word. God gave Solomon wisdom and very great insight, and breadth the understanding as measureless as the sand on the seashore. I think it's no coincidence that the same description the Bible uses to describe the plate that Solomon had to step up to is the same description as the ability that God gave Solomon to swing the bat. See, just as Solomon found himself in rule over people as numerous as the sand on the seashore, God gave him wisdom as immeasurable as the sand on the seashore. So what's the takeaway here? If you're stressed out, if you're in a season of uncertainty of what's next or what's now even, what the Bible tells us here is that God will give you wisdom, God will give you understanding, and God will give you guidance proportional to the need. Don't you just think that's great? But first we need to ask him. First, we need to surrender our circumstances to him. Solomon, just a chapter before chapter 4, in chapter 3, obviously, tells God that he doesn't know what he's doing, that he sees his task that's so big and he doesn't know where to start. He doesn't know how to be a king. He hardly even knows how to live. He's only 17. And he tells God all this, right? He gives it all to God, and then he asks God for the wisdom to navigate it, the wisdom to discern it, the wisdom to get through this challenge. He humbled himself before the Lord. He surrendered his challenges before the Lord, and then he asked the Lord for wisdom on how to navigate those challenges. And it's no different for us today. James 1 verse 5 says this, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously," or the word used in 1 Kings, "who gives immeasurably to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you." If you're thrown into the deep end and need the wisdom to know how to swim, to know how to stay afloat, and you ask God, God's not going to be like, "Sorry, this is called a learning lesson. You're going to drown." That's not the God that we serve. Just like James tells us, if we are ever lacking wisdom and we ask God for it, he'll give it to us, proportional to the need. So going into this week, if you find yourself feeling like you're over, what's the phrase, over your head? If you feel like you're in over your head this week, whatever situation you find yourself in, but you ask God for wisdom and guidance of how to navigate that situation, just like he did for Solomon, he will give you wisdom as immeasurable as the sand on the seashore.